We are now on the record. My name is Daniel Homestuck. I am the videographer for Gulco Litigation Services. Today's date is November 29th, 2018. The time on the video screen is 9:01 a.m. This video deposition is being held at the law offices of Silverman Thompson, 201 North Charles Street in Baltimore, Maryland, in the matter of in re National Prescription Opiate Litigation, pending before the United States District Court for the Northern District of Ohio, Eastern Division. Our deponent today is Mr. Victor Borelli. Counsel will be noted on the stenographic record. The court reporter is Leslie A. Todd, who will now administer the oath to the witness.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, and the truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Derek Lozier for the plaintiffs from Keller Rohrbach.
Allison Gaffney for the plaintiffs from Keller Rohrbach.
Dean Kawamoto, also for the plaintiffs, Keller Rohrbach.
Alejandro Barrientos for the Castle.
Laura Jane Durfee for Walmart. Tricia Nursfeld for the Tennessee plaintiff.
Good morning.
Josh Tully from Williams & Connolly on behalf of Cardinal Health.
Go ahead.
Jason Tilley, Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals.
Cassandra LaRussa, Ropes and Gray, representing the witness in Mallinckrodt.
Good morning, Rocky Tsai, Ropes and Gray, representing the witness and Mallinckrodt.
Good morning, Mr. Borelli. If you could please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Victor Borelli,
This is Mike Bullerman from Mallinckrodt on behalf of the Endo and Park defendants on the phone.
Okay, anybody else on the phone?
Ryan Blake with Reed Smith on behalf of Marisol Bergen.
Victor Borelli, Borelli.
And Mr. Borelli, you understand that you're under oath
I do.
and you're required to tell the truth in these proceedings? Are you taking any medication, or is there any other reason why you could not testify truthfully and accurately today?
No. No medicine.
Have you had your deposition taken before?
Never.
Well, we'll go over a few ground rules. I'm going to be asking you questions, and you will be answering them. It's important that we not speak at the same time, so if you could please wait for me to finish my question before answering, and I'll do the same with your answers before asking another question. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
If you don't understand a question, please say so, and I'll attempt to rephrase the question. Are you represented by counsel here today?
I am.
And who is that counsel?
Ropes and Gray.
And did you select Ropes and Gray, or were you selected by Ropes and Gray?
Check to the form. Go ahead.
Selected by.
I'm going to mark the first exhibit as Exhibit 1 today. Please hand that to the witness. Mr. Borelli, you've been handed what's been marked as Exhibit 1, which is the notice of your deposition today. Have you seen this document before?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
So the first time you've seen your deposition notice is right now as it's been presented to you.
Yeah, I may have seen it, but I get a lot of paperwork. But I may have seen it before, but it doesn't look so familiar.
Okay. If you could please look at the bottom of the first page of that notice, there's a paragraph that starts, "Additionally, please take notice that pursuant to the applicable federal rules of civil procedure, plaintiffs have requested that the individual identified above produce the documents identified in the Schedule A." Do you see that paragraph?
I do.
Could you please turn to Schedule A, which is the next page on that document, and go to page 4. The first request on page 4 is for a copy of your current resume or CV. Have you provided that to your counsel for production?
I don't believe I have yet.
Okay. If you could look at the second request, which is for all documents, including electronic data and email, in your possession, related in any way to any defendant's manufacturer, marketing, sale, distribution, suspicious order monitoring, and lobbying efforts in connection with its opioid business. Have you searched for those documents and provided them to your counsel?
I didn't have any.
You didn't have any documents in your possession that related in any way to your work for Mallinckrodt?
That's right.
And did you destroy all of those documents, or did you never have any?
I never had any.
Did you search your personal email for any communications relating to your work?
I didn't do any work through personal email. It was all through Mallinckrodt or Covidian internet.
So none of your customers ever contacted you on your personal email?
I don't believe so.
Or text messages?
I did use my phone. I'm a salesperson, so I traveled quite a bit. So I did use my phone.
And did you text with your customers when you were a Mallinckrodt salesperson?
I did.
Have you changed your phone service since that time?
I have.
And do you recall what your phone service was when you worked for Mallinckrodt?
I do not.
Is that something you could look into by looking at old bills or anything like that to figure that out?
I don't think I have that line anymore.
Okay. If you look at the third request on this document, it asks for all documents that you have consulted or reviewed or plan to consult in preparation for your deposition and have relied upon or will rely upon for your testimony for your deposition. Have you come today with all of those documents?
Can you ask that again, please?
The request asks you to produce all documents that you have consulted or reviewed. Is it your understanding that all of the documents that you consulted or reviewed for your testimony today have been produced to the plaintiffs?
I'll just object on attorney-client and work product grounds, and if to the extent the question is asking the witness to identify any specific documents selected and compiled and discussed with counsel, I'll instruct the witness not to answer.
Do you know if that's true or not? Are there documents that you reviewed?
I did review a few.
Okay, and were you provided those documents by counsel, or did you have those documents yourself?
By counsel.
And counsel, if there are documents that were reviewed by Mr. Borelli that have not been produced, we would ask that you produce those.
I can represent that all of the documents that were reviewed have been produced.
Mr. Borelli, what did you do to prepare for your deposition today?
Met with counsel.
And how many times did you meet with counsel? A few. 2, 3, 5?
Yep.
2 times?
Yep. 2 or 3.
2 times or 3 times?
3.
And do you recall when those meetings occurred?
Before Thanksgiving, and then yesterday.
And do you recall how long each of those meetings lasted?
4 or 5 hours each visit.
And were those visits in person?
They were.
And where did they occur?
Here in Baltimore.
And do you recall who was present at those meetings?
I do.
And who was that?
Well, the folks on my left, both lawyers on my left.
Okay, and do you know if there were lawyers for any other parties in this litigation who were present?
They were not.
And at these meetings, you reviewed some documents?
Did.
You recall how many?
Maybe a dozen or 2.
And were those communications that you had authored and communications that had been sent to you?
Both.
And any other materials?
No.
Did you speak with anyone else before about your deposition, other than your attorneys?
No.
You haven't contacted any former customers to talk to them about your time at Mallinckrodt? Okay. No one at all?
No.
Are you being compensated or reimbursed in any way for your testimony today?
No.
No expenses?
No.
Mr. Borelli, have you ever been charged with a crime?
Never.
Okay, I'm going to quickly go over your education and work history. Did you graduate from college?
Did.
And where did you graduate from?
Northeastern University,
In what year?
1984.
And what did you major in?
Business management.
Can you briefly describe your job history since graduating from college?
My what?
Your job history?
Certainly. Leaving college, started with the consumer product industry, and started with a company called Lever Brothers.
I'm sorry, called?
Lever Brothers.
Could you spell that, please?
Lever, part of Unilever, Unilever, and was a salesperson, territory manager. Was with them for 3 or 4 years.
And what did you sell there?
Health and beauty care products, so it's consumer goods, toothpastes, shampoos, mouthwash, things like that. And was with H.J. Heinz, spell it, H-E-I-N-Z.
The ketchup company?
Yeah. And again, consumer products. And then most recently in the consumer products industry was with Sara Lee.
The pound cake company?
Yes.
Okay. What else did Sara Lee make?
I managed the coffee business for them. And then about 13 or so, 14 or so years ago, pardon me, I started with Mallinckrodt in sales as well, so sales throughout.
And what products did you sell at Mallinckrodt?
We represented pain management products, as well as a line of products that a company called Zydus had marketed and sold. We were their sales arm for all of their launches and rollouts.
And what types of drugs did they sell?
A number of drugs. I mean, we marketed and sold 10 or I can't remember them all, but atenolol and ribavirin and warfarin and haloperidol, metformin. Quite a bit of those type of drugs.
Okay, so immediately prior to joining Mallinckrodt and selling pain products, among others, you worked for Sara Lee.
I did.
Selling coffee products.
That's correct.
And when you started at Mallinckrodt, or prior to when you started, had you taken any courses relating to controlled substances?
Prior to, no. With, yes.
And explain what courses you took.
When you say course, I thought training.
Well, let's start with courses. Did you attend any educational seminars, anything unrelated to Mallinckrodt or not presented by Mallinckrodt?
No.
So all of your training in controlled substances was while you were an employee of Mallinckrodt?
That's correct.
And did that training include training on the laws applicable to the distribution of controlled substances?
I believe so.
And do you recall the content of any of that training?
There's a lot of different trainings throughout the years, so not all.
Were you presented with training materials that you recall?
On launch products, perhaps.
Any training or legal materials on the legal requirements relating to the distribution of controlled substances?
I don't remember.
When did you leave Mallinckrodt?
I believe 2012.
And again, just briefly, can you walk me through each of the positions you held when you were at Mallinckrodt, and the best as you can recall the timing of when you held those positions?
Sales for the entire time there. So started as I don't remember my title, district manager, then was promoted to a regional manager, and then promoted to a director of national accounts, I believe. I don't remember the title so much, sorry.
And what year were you promoted to the director?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Is that something that would be on your CV?
Probably.
Do you have a CV?
Not with me.
Okay, but you've created one.
Yes.
Do you recall how many, and I believe your title was, in the last period of your employment by Mallinckrodt, the National Sales Director. Does that sound correct?
Mm-hmm.
And was there only one National Sales Director, or were there more?
I don't remember how many there were. I think there were 5 or 6 of us.
And were you responsible for a particular region as National Sales Director?
It wasn't land space as much as customer responsibility.
Okay. And explain how that worked vis-a-vis your co-national directors.
Some sales folks would have could have a customer on the West Coast but live centrally, and vice versa. Somebody can live on the East Coast and have a customer in Texas.
And were you competing with your colleagues for customers?
No.
So how were the different customers divided up in terms of marketing, in terms of getting those customers? How did that work?
That was done by the head of sales, vice president of sales, for realigning of territories, which we did, or the senior vice. I don't remember Mike's title, but vice president of sales and marketing.
So that person would tell the sales directors which clients to pursue?
To realign territories, that's who would do those realignment responsibilities. Pursue, not so much pursue, but realignments, yeah.
Okay, and what do you mean by realignments?
Well, if I happen to manage a McKesson account one year, I may move over to a Cardinal account the following or 2 years later. So just realigning of accounts.
And why would accounts need to be realigned?
Could be to a number of reasons. It could be how the territories want to be broken out by the head of sales or by the vice president of sales and marketing. Could be if one territory's getting lopsided in business, to offload some work to then assign some work. So the shifting of territories could happen because of that.
Was there an effort to balance the income or the compensation of the different sales directors?
None of it was tied to income or compensation, just following your customer, right? Following the wholesaler that ships to different entities that they supply to.
So it sounds like the vice president of sales had a lot of say in who your customers were.
It may have been the vice president of sales or the senior vice president of sales and marketing. I'm not sure. Not exactly sure.
And do you recall who occupied those positions when you were the national sales director?
I do. From a senior vice president of sales and marketing was a person. His name is Mike Gunning, and the direct report for me would have been Mitchell Goldberg when I first started, and then John Adams moved into that role. And Jane Williams. So I had 3 different managers there. So at different times. Right? When I first started, middle of my tenure, and then at the end.
Okay. And to go back for a second, I realized I didn't ask you where you currently work. What's your current position?
I work for Edenbridge Pharmaceuticals.
And what do you do for them?
I'm the senior vice president of sales and marketing.
And when did you start working for them?
About 1.5 years ago.
And who did you work for before that?
A company called Dr. Reddy's.
And what does Dr. Reddy's do?
Pharmaceutical company based in India, sells in the United States.
And what types of drugs do they sell?
A lot.
Yeah.
Maybe 80 or so, 90 or so different assorted molecules.
And are you responsible for any particular group of those drugs?
I'm not there anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
When
right.
you were.
All of them.
And is that where you went after you left Mallinckrodt?
It was.
When you were the national sales director, did you have a team that you managed?
I did not.
When you were the national sales director, did you receive yearly evaluations?
I believe I did.
And who conducted those?
My direct manager. I don't remember if HR was in the rooms as well, or if Mike, Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing, was in as well. I don't remember. But I'm sure my manager. I don't remember, sorry.
Who was your direct manager?
I shared that Mitchell, Goldberg, John Adams, and then Jane Williams.
Do you recall if there are any written records were prepared that were given to you during or following your evaluation?
I don't remember.
Do you recall where your evaluations occurred?
No. No. I could be in the St. Louis offices, but I'm not sure.
How many years were you at Mallinckrodt?
7. 6 or 7.
So you received 6 or 7 performance evaluations, and you don't recall where they occurred?
I'm saying they could be in the corporate offices when we were in there, but it could have been in the field as well. I don't remember.
Do you recall whether you were evaluated based on any particular metrics?
I believe I was.
And could you please describe those?
Sure. Based on service level, customer service level with the customer responsibilities. I'm the direct liaison between the customer and the company, managing back orders, managing supply, forecasting, sales on the portfolio of products. There could have been more, some MBOs as well, but...
I'm sorry, what was the last thing?
MBOs, management by objectives, that is created by the manager to, to tie into the annual review.
And those would be a review of sales objectives?
Those were more code of conduct, business ethics, training seminars, things like that, as well as sales.
Did you receive any commendations or awards when you were employed by Mallinckrodt?
I did.
Could you please describe those?
I was promoted a few times, and then I received awards for President's Club.
What does that mean?
It was a program that the company had that was built around the branded program that rewarded top performers, tying into all the things I shared before. Again, it was a branded program that was then rolled into, and I don't know if we shared this before, but I managed the generic products that was then shared into and with the generic team.
So you didn't sell any branded products, right?
That's correct.
The drugs you sold were
genericized, right?
And based upon your sales of generic drugs, you received a commendation called the President's Award?
That's correct.
And what did you receive with that award?
A recognition trip.
And do you recall when that occurred and where the trip was?
I don't remember when, the time of year, as much, I think. I don't remember. Maybe the springs. I believe, but I'm not quite sure.
How many times did you receive that award?
Twice.
And was it likely to have coincided with the years in which you had the highest sales?
Sales is one factor, but I don't know if I won it the year. Sales is one factor, yeah.
And so what's your best recollection of when those awards were given to you?
I think it's the spring.
But of which
times?
years?
2007, 2011. Sorry.
And do you recall where you were sent?
I believe one trip was to St. Thomas. Sam, can't remember the other one.
Some other place where it was warm and sunny?
Hopefully. I can't remember the location though, so sorry.
During your time at Mallinckrodt, were you ever disciplined or put on probation or anything of the like?
No.
Did you consider yourself a successful national sales director at Mallinckrodt?
Yes.
And do you believe that Mallinckrodt also considered you a successful national sales director?
I believe so.
Did you comply with all of the workplace rules as far as you understood them?
I believe so.
And is it fair to say that you did your job the way you believed Mallinckrodt expected you to do your job?
I believe so.
And were you well regarded by your peers at Mallinckrodt?
I believe so.
Is it fair to say that you did the job Mallinckrodt wanted you to do, and you did it the way they wanted you to do it?
Object to the form.
You can answer.
I believe so.
Can you please explain how your compensation worked at Mallinckrodt?
Sure. It was a salary structure and then a bonus.
And do you recall your starting salary?
I do not. I do not.
A ballpark?
You mean in 2000 and
the year you started?
I don't. I can guess, but it's not fair to guess.
Okay. Do you recall your ending salary?
I do not. Oh, you mean in my last year there?
Yeah.
It would be a guess. I don't. I do not.
And fair to say that you received periodic raises when you were employed by Mallinckrodt?
Yes.
And those were a reflection of the good job that Mallinckrodt believed you were doing?
Well, I think a few of the raises you talk about are annual raises.
Annual raises meaning based on your performance?
End of year, so you've put a year in, and to manage cost of living, or.
So presumably, if Mallinckrodt believed you were doing a bad job, they wouldn't be giving you raises.
Object to the form.
I don't know that.
Okay. You also mentioned bonuses. How did that work?
Tied to launches or sales to forecast.
And do you have a sense of to what degree bonuses were based upon the level of your sales?
What do you mean?
If you sold more, did you expect to get a bigger bonus?
No. Well, it sounds, you make that sound so simple.
Yeah.
It's not quite that simple.
Explain to me how it works.
Sure. A lot of the products that we sold, about half the products we sold, are scheduled products. And there's just a finite amount of inventory that you have that's allocated from the DEA. So when you say, if I sell more, I may sell more at an account, but less at another. and conversely, someone else may sell more at an account and then I would be selling less at mine. It's just regulated quite aggressively by the DEA on, I think it's called quota. Quota they allocate for scheduled companies that sell scheduled drugs.
So within the amount allocated by the quota, was your compensation based on the level of controlled substances that you sold? What's the bonus portion of that?
Well, again, it's it's a complicated process, right? Because if I sell more of something, I'm going to sell less at another account of mine or someone else's, and conversely, it works the same way. And it's based on price points. So it's pretty. You're saying it so simply. Just the equation was built, and it wasn't such a simple. If I sell more, I make more, type of process. And then we also had launch items. We represented a company while I was there for 5 years called Zydus. They didn't have a sales and marketing arm. We were their arm for launches, and that's the launches I'm talking about: the Tenolol and warfarin and ribavirin, metformin, and so on. And those are not scheduled products. And we'd get great sales on those as well.
Fair to say that, again, within the quota that was allocated, overall for all of your customers, your compensation was based in part on the amount of controlled substances that you sold.
In part, that's right.
Was there any kind of bonus cap that you were aware of?
I don't remember. I don't remember. I believe so, but I don't remember, so I hate to say yes and it'd be not accurate.
So, and I understand that it was a somewhat complicated process, but the bonus that you received applied to all of the products that you sold.
That's correct.
So these other products from this Zydus company that you mentioned, but also it applied to the controlled substances that, that you were selling for Mallinckrodt.
That's right.
Present this to the witness, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Borelli, you've been handed what's marked Exhibit 2, which has the bait stamp MNK T10003159995. Is that document in front of you, sir?
Yes.
And why don't you take a moment to see what that is? And while you're reviewing that, for the record, this is the Retail Generic Incentive Plan by Sales Rep. That's the description on the top of the document. Have you seen this document before?
I have not.
And if you look through this document, it shows the sales rep bonuses for calendar years 2006 through 2011 on the first page. Do you see that?
I do.
And if we can just look at the names in 2006, and we'll go down the names. It's David Irwin, Thomas Bain, Tim Berry, Bonnie New, Victor Borelli, and Steve Becker. Were those the other national sales directors in 2006, as you recall?
Yes.
And for each of the years below that, 2007 through 2011, there's a list of names. Those are also true for any name that shows up that I didn't just read. That person was a national sales director as well?
Yes.
Thomas Bain drops off the list after 2008. Do you know who Thomas Bain is?
I do.
Do you know why he comes off this list?
I don't.
So looking at the top year, 2006, your bonus was $26,442. Does that appear to be correct to you?
I don't remember.
You have no recollection at all of the amount of your bonus?
I honestly don't.
Any reason to think that's not a correct number?
No reason to think that.
And then in 2007, your bonus goes up to $35,904. Do you have a recollection as to why your bonus increased?
I don't know the specifics tied to this, but it could tie to the things we discussed a few minutes ago.
And so fair to say that it relates, at least in part, to the increased sales of controlled substances?
Yes, but all products. We grade on all products.
Okay, and then in 2008, your bonus jumps to $119,096. Do you recall the reason for that significant increase in your bonus?
I do not.
That must have been you must have been pleased with that bonus.
Is that a question?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Well, it's a significant increase over the prior year. You don't have any recollection of receiving that bonus?
I do not.
And you don't have any recollection as to why in 2008 your sales bonus would go up so much?
It will be tied to those things we discussed before.
Okay, so again, in part due to the controlled substances you were selling?
Some of the items, yep, that's right.
And then in 2009, your bonus is $101,283. And same question, the amount of your bonus was tied, at least in part, to the controlled substances you were selling?
Yes, yes.
And in 2010, your bonus is $110,335. Again, tied, at least in part, to the controlled substances you were selling?
That's correct.
And in 2011, you're just shy of six figures at $98,295. Do you recall why your bonus went down a bit that year?
I don't.
Do you recall whether that was due, at least in part, to a decrease in the amount of controlled substances you were selling?
I don't know. You're highlighting bonus plans here for the year. So each year had different assignments and different structures. So when you ask why each year was changing. So I don't know. Right?
2008 through 2011, fair to describe those as very good years for you based on these bonuses?
Compared to what?
Compared to 2007?
Well, it's higher.
Okay. Higher is good?
I guess so.
Do you recall what products you were selling a lot of in the 2008 through 2011 time period?
Not specifically.
Was that a time period in which your clients were purchasing a significant amount of oxycodone?
That's one of the products, yes.
What other products were your clients purchasing more of to a significant degree in this time period other than oxy?
I don't know the volumes. I don't know the items. I don't know the molecules off the top of my head from 7 or 8, or I'm sorry, from 10 years ago. Sorry. Sorry.
So there was nothing about that time period and oxy sales, for example, that particularly stands out to you?
Well, I know that I sold that product along with everything else I sold. And again, customer responsibilities changed. So if I picked up a Walgreens or if I picked up a McKesson or a Cardinal, the volume's quite different than a Dwayne Reed.
Do you recall if there were products other than oxycodone that had skyrocketing sales during this time period?
Objection to form. Go ahead.
Well, let me back up. Did the sale of oxycodone skyrocket for you and your distributor customers between 2008 and 2010?
don't remember the numbers. Did I sell more of it, that one specific, as well as other molecules? I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm going to say I don't have the numbers in front of me. So,
And when you say molecules, do you mean other morphine molecules, or what molecules are you talking about?
just molecules that the company manufactured, had license to sell.
And you're telling me now, as you sit here, you don't recall whether the oxycodone sales were particularly explosive during this time period?
I think you asked differently a moment ago, so I don't remember the growth on that molecule versus a metformin or a hydrocodone APAP. I don't know the specifics.
Do you recall if there were any non-opioid products with skyrocketing sales during this time period?
No, I don't remember. Was I the lead salesperson on atenolol? I think I was. Was I the lead salesperson on metformin? I think I was. But I don't remember the numbers and I don't have them. But do I think I gained good distribution on those items? I believe I did.
On which items? On
The ones I just shared.
Were the years 2008 through 2011 the highest compensation years for you at Mallinckrodt?
Yes.
When you left Mallinckrodt, did you receive a severance?
No. I left, resigned.
Why did you resign?
For an opportunity with another organization.
And which organization was that?
That was the one I shared before, the Indian firm, Dr. Reddy's.
Okay. Let's mark this. Mr. Borelli, you've been handed what's been marked Exhibit 3, which is MNK T10002735515. This is an email from you to Jane Williams dated January 20th, 2012. Is that the document in front of you?
Yes.
And Jane Williams was at this time your immediate supervisor?
She was.
And so that it's clear, the address here is Victor Borelli at Covidian.com. Can you explain the relationship between Covidian and Mallinckrodt?
I believe Mallinckrodt was a company in the Covidian umbrella. I believe that was the case. Covidian corporately and Mallinckrodt, and there are quite a few other entities under Covidian. I'm not exactly sure. But I believe that's the case.
Your address is Covidian.com, but your understanding is that you were a Mallinckrodt employee.
I believe we moved over to a Covidian employee, but the customer base knows us as Mallinckrodt.
Okay.
I believe our bottles, the items we marketed, sold.
And you functioned under the Mallinckrodt heading.
I think it was a hybrid, when a company changes names.
But as we go through these documents, when we see references to Covidian and to Mallinckrodt, we're talking about the same company.
Yes. Right.
If you could take a minute just to review that document. And while you're doing that, I'll describe the document for the record. The subject is final numbers for FY11, which I take means for year 11, full year 11. And you write, Jane, please find my sales for FY11 attached and below. And then you describe your sales for 11. And if I understand this document correctly, you're also responding to the sales goals that were presented to you in 2011. Is that correct?
I believe so.
And you discuss a number of the drugs that you were selling, and they all appear to be, or most of them are opioid products. Is that correct?
I believe so.
And that includes Hydro, APAPs, Oxy 15 and 30. What is methylphenidate?
Another product that we sold.
Is that an opioid product or something else?
I can't remember. I think it's Ritalin. So I'm not sure if it's an opiate. I don't believe it. I'm not sure. Sorry.
Another product listed here is Fent Patch. I take it that's fentanyl patch. And that's an opioid, correct?
Yes.
And another product listed is Fent Laws. I take it that's fentanyl lozenges.
Yes.
And that's an opioid as well.
Yes.
And the list continues, but there's a variety of other products, most of which are opioid products, correct?
I don't believe naltrexone is. I'm not sure about apepcodeine. I'm not sure about imipramine. I don't think those are. I'm not sure.
Okay, but then going down, Oxy-IR, opioid.
Yes.
And morphine tabs are obviously an opioid.
Yes.
Methadone on the next page is an opioid.
Yes.
Okay.
Temazepam, I don't believe is.
And if you go back up to the middle of the first page, you write, first half quota targets 75 mm with historical sales of 119.9 mm annually. This is a 25% growth goal to get to 100% on the sales side. So if I'm understanding this document correctly, you were asked to increase your sales by 25% for 2012. Is that correct?
It looks that way, yes.
And a lot of the products that you were selling that you would need to increase the sales of during that time period would be opioid products, correct?
As well as all others, yes.
Mark that Exhibit 4, please.
Thank you.
You've been handed what's been marked Exhibit 4. And I would read the bait stamp, but my hole punch is right through the middle of it. It appears to be MNKT1, ending with the numbers 2520. Do you recognize the document that's in front of you?
I do.
Is this a document you've seen before?
I believe so.
Can you please describe what it is?
It looks like, I'm not quite sure, but it looks like my territory for Mallinckrodt.
And so on the first...
That year. Yeah, that year.
And by your territory, you mean your customers.
Right.
And so your name appears on the top left corner, and below that, there are a list of your customers.
That's correct.
And the second column says 2008, and it says net sales objective. So those were your objectives for those customers for that year, correct?
That's correct.
And then moving down those columns, there are also columns that show your net sales for time periods, October through July, and then after that, a net sales quota attainment. Do you see that?
I do.
And so that quota attainment means the extent to which you met the objective or didn't or exceeded it. Is that correct?
I believe so.
And so if you go down the list, Masters was one of your clients, correct?
Yes.
And Masters is a wholesale distributor,
They are.
and this shows that they were a Mallinckrodt customer during this time period.
That's correct.
And your sales objective for Masters in 2008 was $220,814. You see that?
I do.
And your actual sales from October through July were $2,614,517. Do you see that?
I do.
And then the goals quota attainment says 1,421%. Do you see that?
I do.
So you exceeded the goal for Masters for that time period by 1,421%. Correct?
Yes.
And in fact, if you go down the list, there's a number of your customers where you significantly exceeded the goal set for you for 2008, right?
Yes.
And overall, your FY08 totals for quota were at 130%.
Yes.
Do you recall what product Masters was buying from Mallinckrodt at such a rate that you were able to exceed your sales goal by 1,421%?
I think we had good distribution on all our products at Masters.
So no particular product stood out as you recall now.
They bought all. I believe they bought all my products, or a majority of my products in distribution.
And do you recall if their sales were dominated by any particular product?
They bought all my products, and I'm going to say oxycodone, but they bought all my products.
Okay, but there's nothing as you sit here today that stands out in your mind about the amount of Oxy, for example, that they purchased from you.
They bought oxycodone from me, from Mallinckrodt, and all my products.
And again, to answer my question, there's nothing that stands out about the amount of Oxy they were purchasing from you.
Oh, no.
Okay, and if you look at another client of yours on here is KeySource Medical, and you exceeded their goal by 167%. Same question, is there anything about any particular product as you sit here today that you recall dominating the purchases of KeySource Medical from Mallinckrodt?
Same response. They bought all my products.
Okay, same question again. Oxy doesn't stand out as one that they purchased more of than anything else?
They bought that product from me.
And you don't recall the amount they buying dominating the other products they purchased from you?
It wasn't my log. If you show me my numbers on all my molecules, then I could say yes, but
okay. We could mark this, please. You've been handed what's marked Exhibit 5. And do you recognize this document, Mr. Borelli?
looks like the same document with a different year.
Okay, and that different year is 2009, correct?
Right.
And again, the first column has your name and it lists your customers. And the list
Yes.
of customers is not exactly the same. Is that because of the realignment that you were discussing previously?
That's right.
So if you go back to Exhibit 4 and look at Masters, Mr. Borelli, if you look back at the other document,
sorry.
you look at the sales goal for Masters, you see that the sales goal for Master in 2008 was $220,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the sales goal for Masters in 2009 is $7,473,255. Do you see that?
I do.
And I won't have you do the math in your head, but that's an increase of about 34 times. Does that look about right?
If you did the math and you pull that number, then it looks right.
Well, you can look at the number 200,000 and see that 7,473,000 is many times. The goal for Masters in 2009 was many multiples. In fact, 34 times larger than the goal in 2008. Correct?
Yes.
So in 2008, you significantly exceeded your sales quota by 1,420%. And the response in 2009 was to increase your sales goal significantly, right?
For that account, yes.
Okay. And then looking down that list, in 2009, you also significantly exceeded your quota, correct? On Exhibit 5.
Yes.
Okay. And on this page, from October through December, it was 189%. And if you flip to the...
Here's 189. Oh, sorry.
And if you flip to the second to last page in that exhibit, and that has the results for October through February net sales. If you go down to Masters, you see that you exceeded the quota by 178.6%. Correct?
Yes.
And if we go back to 2008 in Exhibit 4 again, to the prior document you looked at, and you pick out another client, say KeySource Medical, in 2008, the sales goal or objective for KeySource was 515,127. You see that?
I do.
And then if you look at Exhibit 5, in 2009, the sales goal for KeySource goes up to 1,977,000. Is that correct?
I see that.
So again, you beat the sales goal in 2008, and as a result, your objective increased.
Object to the form.
You can answer.
What was the question? I'm sorry. What?
That when you beat your sales quota for KeySource in 2008, when 2009 rolled around, your sales objective had increased significantly.
From these numbers, it looks that way, yes.
Mr. Borelli, you've been just been handed Exhibit 6. This is the same spreadsheet, but for 2010. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so again, on the first column it has your name, Victor Borelli, and below that it has a list of your customers. Okay?
Yes.
And if you look back at the prior exhibit for 2009, and you look at KeySource, you see that your sales objective for KeySource was 1,097,000, right?
Yes.
You exceeded it, right?
Yes.
And then if you flip forward to 2010, your sales goal for KeySource goes to 11,401,713. Do you see that?
I do.
And again, that's a very significant increase over the prior year's sales goal, right?
It is.
More than 10 times larger, right?
believe so.
Derek, we've been going about an hour. Can we take a break after this exhibit?
We're finished with that exhibit. Okay. So if we can just take a short break, I'd appreciate it.
Time is 10:02 a.m. We're going off